Hello everybody, great to have you on board for another Sunday Million, your latest instalment of the biggest, most exciting regular tournament in the world. 6,500 runners defied the lazy, hazy days of summer to generate a prize pool of more than $1.3 million. Usual huge stacks of cash up for grabs. I'm Nick Wealthall here to take you through the action, and as we join things, a British player is in the lead, but usurped by a Canadian. Three Brits, in fact, on your leaderboard. Tony Two Pairs, AK, is the Canadian at the top of things as we start the action with 1, 2, 5, 250 blinds. And hand number 6 of your million will start you with a setup, I think. What about the old aces into ace-king scenario? A little bit of fun. No fun for El Janic from Azerbaijan. Thank you for stacks too. So good that he took the sequel username. Thank you for stacks is a cool username. I think that's fair enough. He's going to open raise with the aces. El Janic, I would say probably not too many options, and I'm immediately defied because he's going to flat call. Felt sure the money would go in, and Kevin V will fold ace 10 when it was only another bet to complete and see a flop, which is interesting. No help for El Janic on the flop, so he may actually get away from this in a situation where perhaps he shouldn't. Could be one of those play it wrong and come up smelling of roses type scenarios. Or just keep playing it wrong and come up smelling horrible. We don't know yet. El Janic calls on the flop. Optimistic call. Queen of spades on the turn. Well, I guess it might scare thank you for stacks a little bit, but there's not much he can do. El Janic with less than a pot-sized bet left. He's just got to put the money in, and El Janic eventually gets the message that he's second best in this one. Still alive in the tournament, but only just under 10 big blinds now. We'll jump on a few hands. Same blind level, 1, 2, 5, 250. Still 9-handed, and thank you for stacks. The player from Sweden is again involved, but he's run into a better hand this time. Ace-king for untouchable 10 from the Republic of Moldova. I would guess that untouchable 10, if he wins this, will have a good chance of being the winningest Moldovan poker player ever. I can't confirm that instantly, but it's definitely possible. He's going to 3-bet. He would have thought more than happy to get the money in with about 30 big blinds. And this is one of those spots in tournament poker that's never completely easy. Ace-queen facing a 3-bet with about 30 or 40 big blinds behind. What would you do in this spot? You really can't flat call. I don't think you have enough chips to do that. Unless you've got some kind of read and, I don't know. It's a tough one. He might have played with untouchable for some of this tournament and might know how often he's 3-betting. Thank you for stacks. Thinks about it, does put the money in. He's going to get called pretty quickly here. Incorrect. Wow. Well, that's extraordinary. Thank you for stacks. We'll be thinking he probably had the best hand after untouchable folds. How wrong he is. Curious play in that hand, but thank you for stacks. Now over 10 million and could potentially have been out the tournament. Well, El Janic could also have been out the tournament with ace-king. People dodging bullets all over the place. He's now got his money in with ace-queen suited, and he's run into Le Knave. British player from Headingley, Yorkshire. Quite near the place of my birth. You can tell from my accent. That's quite a local joke for British listeners. I do not have a Yorkshire accent for people outside of Britain. He's going to flat call with the kings. Interesting flat call, because he does have a couple of big stacks behind him, perhaps thinking he might get someone to shove with a hand like, I don't know, ace-queen or something. Anyway, the money's in the middle, and Le Knave is a good favourite here. El Janic, the all-in player. He's the one that needs to get lucky. Still behind. Le Knave's 2 black kings in front. Flush draw now for El Janic to go with his overcard, and the queen doesn't help him. So the kings hold up, and a nice pot for El Knave, or Le Knave rather. El Janic leaves us in 9th spot, the Azerbaijan player, with just over $10,000 for the cash. We're 8-handed. And the knave will fold, just won that pot. He's got a final table in a scoop to his name. Came 4th in that one this year. Not involved in this hand though. 260, 719, 85 is only getting his full name read out once. That was it. Hope you enjoyed it. Vasil, 1976, 197. Exactly the same deal. No bias. PD Jack will call. 7s versus 8s. A little setup here. Unlucky for Vasil. The Ukrainian player has kind of been cooled here. Well, he's got a draw now. He can hit a heart to go with the 7. Same deal on the river. Needs to catch this card or he's going to be leaving us. There you go. It's not that difficult. Like falling off a log on the river. Bad news for PD Jack. May not seem like a huge pot, but they matter at final tables. Great news, of course, for Vasil, whose stack is back over 10 big blinds. He was very short going to that hand. We're playing 200,000, 400,000 in hand 41. Still an 8-handed affair. Vasil will open here with ace-4. And he'll get a flat call from PD Jack. Too sure about this open with 10 big blinds. We'll see if it works out for him. Tony 2 pairs. Our Canadian player gets out of the way and we'll see a flop. Well, you got to know when it's coming. Vasil hits the flop, vaults into the lead, and this could be turning from a small comeback into a, well, at least a medium-sized one for the Ukrainian. Flat call from PD Jack. So he thinks his ace-jack could well be best. Perhaps he just can't fold jacks, hence the screen name. Just gets attached. The rest of Vasil's chips are in. And PD Jack is given, well, he's given himself this decision. Flat called before the flop, flat called on the flop. And finally folds. Vasil will scoop this one up over 7 million. Now, if you'd like to be on a million final table, we'd like to give you a free chance to join these players another week. Just hit Tourney Free Roll, find the online poker show Free Roll, and I will give you the password later on in the show.
Growing up on the circuit, everyone wanted to offer me advice. When to bet, when to fold, when to raise, what to wear, what to eat. But there was one piece of advice that took me to a new level.
Daniel, don't do anything stupid.
At PokerStars.com, there's a tournament starting every second. Develop your game at the world's largest poker site.
Yeah, I find that advice difficult to live by on and off the table, if I'm honest. Back with the million and 8 players left, but thank you for Stacks would knock out 267, 1985 from London. He would finish in 8th and win $15,756. And we'll be 7-handed, still playing 200,000, 400,000. The knave will open ace-4 suited. Ace-4 is clearly the hot hand at this final table. Tony 2 pairs with the flat call with the 6s. And PD Jack thinking about this, but does get out of the way. Untouchable folds, and we'll see a flop between these two. Pretty good flop for a pair of 6s. Le Knave might check this. Not sure if betting gets anything worse to fold here. He's thinking about his options. He does have a decent amount of chips behind. He will fire. And Tony 2 pairs will call. Now the question here is, if Le Knave doesn't improve, what's the plan? 8 of clubs changes nothing in terms of who's winning. Makes the board a tiny bit scarier. Le Knave's going to keep firing. Keep the pressure on Tony Two Pairs. It's quite enjoyable saying Tony Two Pairs. Try it at home. 2.6 million. So if his opponent's going to fire the river, he's basically making a decision here potentially for his stack. And he does get the fold. So the Knave, with continued aggression, will eventually get rid of Tony Two Pairs. And you have to say, he judged the situation right. It'd be interesting to know if Tony had called there, if Le Knave would have fired the river. Action in hand 52 is folded round to the button. And thank you for stacks. Your chip leader will raise. PD Jack will re-raise. He has just under 20 big blinds. Maybe a slight surprise that he didn't shove. Players often like to shove there just to eliminate getting 4-bet. And thank you for stacks is not folding here, so he might be thinking about doing something. He's going to flat, which might have been the third favourite in the running as to what he would do. But he's called a queen, and that gives him the best hand. PD Jack's 4s looking pretty anemic on this board. However, he did 3-bet, so... well, we'd guess that he'd fire the flop, at least. No reason why he can't have an ace here. Thank you for stacks. Well, if you're going to take the queen 5 to war, you've got to be reasonably happy you got a queen out of things. There's no logic behind that statement, but, well, he hits 2 pairs, so now he's going to feel super comfortable. If PD Jack did have that ace, he just got outrun. But we can see the cards, and I don't think PD Jack's going to put any more money into this pot. Thank you for stacks. Just thinking about this, and he will bet. He may be thinking, well, if PD Jack's got a pocket pair, should I check this and try to get a bet on the river? He did decide to bet the turn and didn't get paid, but over 21 million now and running good. And thank you for stacks. Up over 23 when we rejoin the action in hand 59. And Tony Two Pairs has just 1 pair, but a very nice pair. Ladies in the cutoff. And ace-king suited for Vasil. Just under 10 big blinds. In goes the money. Classic race here. Ace-king suited versus queens. Pretty close. The queens with a small edge. Just waiting for Tony to commit to this. He's probably doing his lucky 2 pairs incantation. I don't know what that is. I can't hear, but you can imagine. It's probably pretty awesome. 8 million in the middle in this race situation means a huge amount to both these players. And the queens hold up past the flop. Vasil screaming for a king or an ace. 8 is no help. And queen on the river is the icing on the cake for Tony Two Pairs. He has over 9 million in his stat, but we will lose Vasil 1976-19-7 from the Ukraine. $28,000 and a big chunk of change to him. And we're playing 6 max in the million. 6 players remain. 60th hand of our final table, 200,000, 400,000. And a couple of players short stacked in the blinds, both Untouchable 10 and Kevin V. And Untouchable 10 makes the shove. I think he's done absolutely the right thing. He's just run into a better hand here. Kevin V, a big favourite to knock out Untouchable.